All right, in this lesson right here, what we're going to be doing is setting up our image planes, our reference images that we're going to use to, if you will, trace our character.
Exactly.
I mean, come on, Zach, let's talk about the importance of image planes.
We could talk for a while about that.
We sure can, but we want to keep these lessons relatively short.
So we're not going to, but basically it's very difficult to create any kind of model with no reference whatsoever. Just kind of build it right off the top of your head.
It's where a lot of beginners actually kind of fall short, if you will, when they first get into modeling, and that's because they sit down and they just start pulling vertices and they want to make something specific that they have in their mind, but yet they have no reference to go by.
Exactly.
Except for this mental image, and that's very difficult for somebody that's completely new to working with models in 3D space to achieve, you know, modeling something that's in your mind.
Right, and sometimes, like, occasionally I sit down to my computer and I do what I call sketch modeling, which is where I have no reference, I just have an idea what I want to see and I start building. But if I'm ever doing any kind of serious work, I always use a reference of some kind.
Now, in this case here, we've had Mr. Derek Stevens draw up some image planes for us. Basically, I described the kind of character that we'd like to have, and he whipped us some out real quick. And what Zach is going to do is show you how you would go about setting these image planes up in Maya so that you can use them as a reference while you are modeling.
Okay, so here we go. We have a front and a side view of our character actually drawn out, so it comes in really handy because we actually have front and side views in Maya.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So for those of you who are relatively new to navigating the viewports, I'm just tapping the space bar to jump in between these guys. And I'm going to go under View and go to the Camera Attribute Editor. And we don't need camera attributes or film back. We're going to open up the Environment tab and click Create Image Plane. And then that jumps over to the image plane node, and we're just going to click over here next to image name. And we'll hit woman front view. And close, and there we go. So there's our front view. It's been darkened up a little bit so that the wireframe of our polygon object as we model will stick out in front of it. So let's jump over to a side view. And I'll go ahead and load in our side image. Exact same thing, camera attribute editor, create image plane, load up side view. And there we go. So now we have a front and a side view of our character. Now we're going to need to kind of make sure that these images are aligned properly before we start to move things around. Now, if you're drawing these on your own, it's a good idea. You might notice these were drawn on graph paper. It's a good idea to use things like that to make sure that your drawings are already lined up as accurately as they possibly can be.
As a matter of fact, if you're completely new to drawing image planes altogether, you may want to head over to www.3dbuzz.com or masteringunreal.com and take a look at some of the concept art VTMs that we've done. Actually, VTM number 2, we go over how to properly draw image planes and make sure everything lines up.
Absolutely. So what I'm going to do while I'm here is I'm going to adjust this image plane so that the center line, if you will, that runs down the character is a little closer to the origin of the grid. And I can do that by changing the center Z in this case, which, as I slide, you'll notice moves her along the Z-axis. And I'm just going to kind of line her up until she's a little better lined up with the grid. And we know this is the grid because we can see the green line from the other image plane, which is still at 0, 0, 0. And we'll jump back. And now I'm going to go to a front view, and I'm going to align this image plane. I need to select it in a perspective view, because you can't select it inside the orthographic view. And then I'll go under the image plane inputs again. This time I'll be using center X, and in this case we need about 0.3, and you'll notice that she is now straight down the center. So that's very nice, that's handy. But
I want to go ahead and take a second and talk about the importance of having it centered up on that front view for the mirrored geometry.
Absolutely. Since we're only building half of a character, and we're going to use mirror geometry to create the other symmetrical half of our character, it naturally makes sense that we want our image plane to be aligned dead down the center axis, so that we don't have to move our vertices of our character around too much off the main axis.
Exactly, of our duplicated or mirrored geometry character.
Exactly. So this all looks very nice. We have our planes in place here, but I don't like to work with my planes right here in the middle of my perspective. They kind of get in the way. They make it hard to see what's going on. So typically what I do is I push them back out of the way. I'll just kind of give an example. We'll start with our front view, and I'm going to take its center Z and just slide it back to get it kind of out of the way. And then I'll take the side view, and we'll use its center X and slide it out the way too. Now, for those of you who are wondering whether or not this is going to distort our model as we work, the answer is absolutely not. In an orthographic view, depth has been removed, and so these look pretty much exactly like they did a second ago before everything was moved. I am, however, going to go ahead and shut the grid off in both views just to keep things a little easier to see. We won't really need the grid too much because really all we're going to be basing this off is the outline of the drawing itself.
That's right.
So that pretty much does it for our image planes.
Now, okay, in this lesson also what we want to do is go ahead and take just a second and talk a little bit about the shelf and how you can go about, kind of customizing, enhancing your workflow, customizing your shelf a little maybe.
Exactly.
Speeding you up.
Right. And not everybody out there likes to use the shelf or shelf tabs. There are those out there. I mean, there's so many different ways to work inside of Maya.
Right.
But I'm going to show you how to make a customized shelf. Now, if you just open Maya 4.5 and the PLE is going to be the same way, you will have a blank custom shelf on the end of your shelf tabs. This is here just so that you can do exactly what I'm about to show you. So what I typically do is I make a list of all the tools that I know I use, or maybe the most commonly used tools for poly modeling, and I just add these to the shelf. And the way you do this is by holding down Control, Alt, and Shift, and don't hit Control, Alt, Delete. I actually did that once. So then we'll just go ahead and select the tools we need.
Or Alt F4. He did that once, too, in the middle of recording.
Yeah, we were actually recording a VTM. For some strange reason, I was compelled to hit Alt F4 and then press Enter, and I closed the program down, and Buzz was just completely dumbfounded. He just sat there like, why did you do that?
Yeah, I was like, okay.
So I'm going to go ahead, holding down Control, Alt, and Shift. I'm going to select the Split Polygon tool, which you'll notice adds its icon here to the shelf. So now I can just click on this to access that tool. And I'm just going to go ahead and use that same method, holding down Control, Alt, Shift, to add all the tools that I'm going to be using. So we'll use Extrude Face. I'll use the Append to Polygon tool, which I'll go over a little bit later when we actually get to using it. It's what we're going to use to attach the legs to the torso, the arms to the torso, and so on. We're going to use the Cut Faces tool, the Merge Vertices tool. I'm going to go ahead and put the Wedge Faces tool in here, although it's not going to play an extremely important part in our model. We will be using it. Then I'm going to add Triangulate, Mirror Geometry.
Up there you go.
There it is, there it is. And before I do that, let me go ahead and open up its options. Here's the deal. When you add these tools to your shelf, they're going to go with whatever options you have set for them right now. So later on, like if you come back and change the options but then click on this, it's going to revert back to whatever options it had when that tool was set. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and make sure they're set up for exactly what I need when I merge my character over. In this particular case, you'll notice we would be mirroring in the x-axis in the negative direction. So we'll go ahead and change this to negative x. Everything else is fine. Merge with original and connect border edges. So we'll go ahead and apply that and close. Now we'll hold down Control, Alt, Shift again, add Mirror Geometry. I'm going to add another tool which we haven't gone over yet, but I'll show you guys how it works when we get to it. That's the Paint Selection tool. And finally, the Delete History command.
Okay.
So there's everything we need, all very handy, right here in front of us. All we have to do is move our mouse no more than 6 inches or so, and we're all set.
Now, something that we could go ahead and point out real quick in case anybody's wondering while looking at these images, and that is, why is her hand open on the left side but yet closed on the right? Well, the reason it's closed over on the right-hand side is because that's going to be the hand that's actually going to be on the gun, as if it was wrapped around the handle of whatever gun it was that she's using. And this is just kind of a stipulation, if you will, for models that you're building for Unreal Tournament 2003.
It's a modern convention in all Unreal models to have the right hand closed so it actually seems to be holding the gun itself.
That's right.
Unreal models don't have a skeletal system inside the fingers. The fingers don't move independently.
That's right.
So what they do is they have one hand open that could be like maybe holding the underside of a gun, and the actual right hand will be holding the handle itself.
Yeah, I just thought I'd point that out real quick. And so with that, now we've pretty much got everything set up, and we're ready to go ahead and get modeling. But one more thing I will point out, only because it's not been brought up yet, but Zach, you may want to go ahead and take just a second and show them how they could go about turning on that polygon heads-up display.
Absolutely. So you'll notice here we have vertices, edges, faces, and UVs already in our viewport. This is going to give us a constant count of the number of each of these components inside of our scene. Now, this isn't on by default. When you first fire up Maya, you're not going to see it at all. You can go under Display, under the heads-up display, and select Poly Count, and I'll just go ahead and select it, and you'll notice it goes away. So I'll bring it back, heads-up display, Poly Count, And there it is.
Yeah, I just wanted Zach to talk about that real quick. As we're kind of gearing up to begin our modeling phase here, for poly modeling for games, it's very important that you keep an eye on the number of faces that you've got in your model. And all.
Especially with a game like Unreal Tournament, where you'll typically have several characters on the screen, so your characters need to remain very low poly to keep things moving fast.
That's right. So that's going to pretty much wrap up this lesson here. Thanks.